All right, shifting focus, the Tamil Nadu Finance Minister.
Inflation is a very complex thing. There's human psychology in it, there's some virtuous cycle, there's some vicious cycle, there's monetary policy impact, there's fiscal policy impact. Inflation can be measured many different ways. Is it in consumer prices, is it in asset prices? In this particular case, the data suggests that one of the reasons we have much lower inflation than the national average is because the cost of food is much lower. That has risen much more slowly. And it is not a coincidence that our spending on the public distribution system has gone up almost 100% in the last 2 years compared to the 3 years before that. So in that sense, that has helped us contain inflation. But on the other hand, if we had spent profligately, if we had kept all other spending the same and increased the spending that much by about 7,000-8,000 crores, we could not have reduced the revenue deficit and the fiscal deficit as much as we have. In the last year, after spending a lot more money, the RE said we were down about 7,000 crores. Now I'm saying we're down more than double that, more than 15,000 crores. That's what the indications are. FA is coming any day now. And so the fiscal deficit was not the 3.8 or something that I reported, which is already down from 4.61, but more like 330, 335, 325, something in that region when the final account comes. So I said the job of a finance minister, of course, as the chief minister guides us, is to balance these three things. On the one hand, you have to be responsible and keep the fisc under control and follow the FRBM Act and have zero revenue deficit and get to 3% total fiscal deficit after the special allowances for the COVID norm. On the other hand, you should spend in ways that reduce the burden on people, because inflation, as many have said, is a hidden tax on the poor. And at the same time, you should do it in a way that increases the growth and increases the the environment for investors to come and create jobs and create growth. And the way we see growth is because of our revenues going up, our state's own tax revenues and non-tax revenues. So in that sense, all I said was that the last year and a half, we have managed to do all three, because in this last quarter, our state's own tax revenues were up more than 55 or 56%, non-tax revenues up 75%. At the same time, our inflation is 2 percentage points lower than the national average of 1.75%. And at the same time, we have done what I would consider a historic reduction in revenue deficit and fiscal deficit and the percentage of deficit. This year looks to be even brighter. This year we may even do much more. So, under the Chief Minister's guidance, we have been able to balance all three: contain inflation, control the deficit, and yet have good growth and good revenues.
Sir, the union government has been consistently attacking the GDP culture. When you take
I don't understand the meaningless word. My point is, what is my job? I have to manage the deficit. I have to help people's lives be better. And I have to provide a platform or an environment or an incentive or an investment for growth. So if I do that, why should somebody tell me how to do my job better? I'm saying mine will end up at 3.3 or 3, my fiscal deficit. The union government is at 6.7 or 6.9. Why should they tell us how to do our job better? I don't understand.
Yeah, what I wanted to ask was, despite providing free bus rides to women and providing 1,000 rupees to college-going women and several other things.
Why do you say despite? I say because we are doing that, we get good growth. Because they are doing that, we get a better society. Because of doing that, we get more participation of women in the workforce. Therefore, we get higher per capita productivity. It's not despite, it's because.
So you're telling that these are also one of the reasons why we are...
Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, of course it is.
You're totally against what they're telling. Your point of view is
yeah, I'm not going to get into it.
They're telling that the economy is going down because of these kind of...
How? Hey, the statistics come from them. They don't come from me. The statistics come from the Central Statistical Office or the Ministry of Finance in Delhi, right?
Alright, sir. And my one last question here. So you've been very vocal about the central government snatching away states' financial rights. In fact, you were in the press meet, earlier press meet, talking about how the union government is determining the borrowing limit for states, depending on the amount that need to be paid to them. So, do you think there need to be some reforms that has to be brought in this area where the states kind of have their own determine their own-
Absolutely. No, but it's more than that, right? I mean, the thoughtful people can have different views, the nuanced views of looking at it. But the core point being that, and this is not something new, I've already written it into the 15th Finance Commission submission on behalf of the DMK when I was an opposition MLA, where we have said there needs to be much more flexibility in the notion. I mean, the union government has unlimited flexibility. The FRBM Act was amended 18 years ago, was created 18 years ago. In 18 years, they've amended it 18 times to increase the length of time where they have to come into compliance.
So each time to their flexibility.
Yeah, of course, to increase their flexibility. Yeah. We have an act. If we amend it, it doesn't matter. It gets superseded by the Section 293(3) borrowing limit. So already they have curtailed the constitutional rights of the states to use their own acts and their own legislators. On top of that, if they tell you how you shall tax, how you shall spend, don't do freebie, cut the petrol tax, then what is the point of having a state government, right? Are they trying to run all the states from Delhi? That's